Welcome, tennis fans and sports lovers joining us from every corner of the world. We are watching something totally unheard of in the history of pro tennis. If you've looked at a screen or sports news in the last 48 hours, you know exactly what we're buzzing about today. You've seen the viral clips and heard the absolute roar of the stadium crowds. You can feel the massive shift at the Foro Italico, the gladiator arena of the Italian Open in Rome, a place overflowing with decades of history. Marble statues and red clay have been taken over by one unstoppable force. We're talking, of course, about the 20-year-old Filipino phenom, the main attraction of this tournament, and the undeniable next-generation superstar of the WTA, Alex Eala. Let me set the scene, because what's going down in Rome isn't just another sports story. This is a cultural phenomenon. Usually, the early rounds of a major tournament are pretty quiet affairs. Outer courts are normally just polite applause from a few tourists and the rhythmic thud of a tennis ball hitting the clay. You expect the massive noise for guys like Jannik Sinner on home soil, Carlos Alcaraz, or queens of the court like Iga Swiatek and Aryna Sabalenka. But this year, the script has been totally flipped. The biggest, loudest, most rowdy crowds aren't even following the world number ones. They're swarming the stadium to see the world number 42. They're here for Alex Eala, the viral video that just broke the internet, a clip with millions of views on YouTube and TikTok in just hours, captures a moment of pure, raw athletic theater. It's a comeback story that defies all logic. We're talking about the terrifying mental toughness needed to stare down a massive deficit, to survive a storm on that treacherous European red clay and simply refuse to back down. The opening match against 28-year-old veteran Magdalena Frech was a microcosm of her whole career so far. Chaotic, emotional, incredibly challenging, but in the end, a massive triumph. She came out swinging, totally dismantling Frech with a breathtaking 6-0 bagel in the first set. She looked untouchable. Every forehand hit the lines. Her movement was perfect, gliding across the clay like she was born on it. But tennis is a cruel game of momentum. Frech, a seasoned pro who has beaten top 10 players before, really dug her heels in. She changed the pace, hit heavy looping balls, and dragged her into the mud, taking the second set 6-3. The narrative shifted. In the deciding third set, she got broken immediately, staring down a 1-3 deficit. Tension in the stadium was so thick you could cut it with a knife. You could see the exhaustion setting in. You could feel that suffocating weight of expectation pressing down hard on the young Filipino's shoulders. Then, the viral moment happened. Down, but never out, she tapped into a level of grit you just can't teach. It is the kind of resilience forged in the fires of the Rafa Nadal Academy, under the watchful, intense eye of Uncle Tony Nadal. She rattled off 4 of the next 5 games with pure willpower. The point that broke the internet, a grueling 30-shot rally where she defended 5 overhead smashes before ripping a passing shot down the line, showed why she's a generational talent. The crowd erupted with a primal, stadium-shaking roar. Filipino flags were fluttering everywhere in the Roman breeze. That video of the passing shot and the massive roar is exactly what you've been seeing everywhere. This is a superstar arriving not with a press release, but with a sonic boom on the Italian dirt. This gritty victory is much more than just a first-round win. It's a massive statement of intent. It boosts her 2026 clay record and pushes her live ranking back toward the top 35. It silences critics who wondered if she had the stamina for the grueling European clay season. But to understand this moment, to grasp why the Italian Open has basically become the Alex Eala show, we have to look closer. We have to look at her journey, the weight she carries as the face of Philippine tennis, and the tactical evolution that changed her from a top junior into a real, world-beating professional. We're going to examine the mechanics of her game and the psychology of her stardom, and the massive impact she is having on the world of tennis across the globe. Buckle up, because the story of Alex Eala is the most fascinating narrative in sports right now. To understand the Alex Eala phenomenon, we first need to look at the sports culture in the Philippines, a nation of 115 million people, with a diaspora of over 10 million people worldwide. Historically, the Philippines is a nation obsessed with 2 things: basketball and boxing. For over 2 decades, The heart of Filipino sports was tied to one man, Manny Pacquiao. When Pacquiao fought, the nation stopped. Crime rates hit zero. Traffic vanished from the congested streets of Metro Manila. The country breathed and bled with every punch thrown in Las Vegas. But when he retired, it left a massive hole in the Filipino sporting spirit. An entire nation was starving, absolutely desperate for a hero to take over the global stage. Enter a soft-spoken, fiercely determined teenager straight out of Quezon City. Alex Eala didn't pick a sport with a ready-made path in the Philippines. In the Philippines, tennis is a niche club sport, miles away from the popularity of basketball. But Eala's talent was undeniable. Her family saw it early, making the massive sacrifice to move her to Mallorca, Spain, to train at the world-famous Rafa Nadal Academy. This is where she built her foundation. Training under a clay court legend gave her a monastic work ethic. She learned the brutal, exhausting reality of the grind, the physical toll of Spanish clay, how to suffer through points, and how to weaponize heavy topspin. Her junior career was historic. She hit world number 2 and shattered glass ceilings as the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title at the 2022 US Open. But history shows us a graveyard of dominant juniors who just couldn't handle the jump to the Pro Tour. The women's game is physical, punishing, and totally unforgiving. Making that transition was a brutal climb. Eala spent years on the ITF circuit, grinding in tiny towns for almost no money. Then, her breakthrough on the WTA Tour hit like a lightning bolt. Look at the 2025 Miami Open, the moment everything changed. She entered that tournament as a complete unknown to most fans. Eala went on a total rampage, taking down 3 Grand Slam champs and stunning the world by beating Iga Swiatek to reach the semifinals. That was when the world saw her potential, but more importantly, it was when Filipinos everywhere realized they finally had a new champion. That run sent her ranking skyrocketing to a historic world number 29 in March of 2026. She was officially the highest-ranked Filipino in WTA history. But with that status came a terrifying new pressure. As an underdog, you play with total freedom. When you're the favorite, with a rank by your name and a nation expecting a win, that racket suddenly feels like it weighs 50 pounds. Now, let's break down her game as she hits the red clay of Europe. Clay is the great equalizer. It kills raw power and rewards strategy and fitness. This past month, we have watched Eala face the agonizing growing pains of a top pro. After her March peak, she exited early in Stuttgart and Linz. Her ranking took a hit, dipping down to number 42. Pundits wondered if the pressure was breaking her, but her run at the Madrid Open showed real tactical maturity. Even after a tough loss to Elise Mertens, her win over the powerful Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova was a total masterclass in clay court discipline. Big-name analysts like Max Kellerman have highlighted her incredible evolution. So, what makes her so dangerous? First, she's a lefty. In a right-handed sport, that southpaw spin is a nightmare puzzle for her opponents. Her two-handed backhand is rock-solid, a shield she uses to absorb pace and fire back at impossible angles. But it's her forehand that has seen the most dramatic improvement under her coaching team, including Joan Bosch and Alexandro Vivanco. Borrowing straight from the Nadal playbook, Eala hits with heavy topspin, kicking the ball way above her opponent's shoulders. This forces them back and creates short balls she can just step in and crush. On the dirt, this shot is lethal. Plus, her court coverage is now world-class. She doesn't just run. She slides like a seasoned European pro, moving from defense to a killer strike in a heartbeat. But tactics are only half the battle. The other half is mental, and that is where her status as a superstar really starts to shine. We have to talk about the crowds. The energy at the Italian Open is exactly what we saw earlier this year in the California desert at Indian Wells. Front Office Sports reports that Eala has become one of the biggest box office draws in tennis today. During that late-night match at Indian Wells against Diana Yastremska, Stadium 3 was packed with thousands of screaming, chanting fans from the Filipino community. The atmosphere was electric and totally unprecedented for a player ranked 31st in the world at the time. Organizers, the WTA, and massive sponsors know exactly what kind of star they have on their hands. Eala is a total marketing goldmine, representing a huge, engaged, and incredibly loyal group of fans. She acts as the bridge between traditional tennis strongholds and the massive, untapped market of Southeast Asia. When she steps on that court, it's about more than just ranking points or prize money, which is pushing $2 million. She carries the pride and the hopes of millions of people. Other players on the tour have talked about the unique burden of being the face of an entire nation. Ons Jabeur, the trailblazer for Arab and African women's tennis, has often discussed this same suffocating weight of pressure. It has crushed lesser athletes. But Eala seems remarkably, almost unnervingly, poised. Facing massive crowds and impossible expectations, her response on the court was loud and clear. Being brave is the best thing I can do for myself. That courage drove her viral comeback against Magdalena Frech in Rome. It wasn't just hitting shots, it was about pure grit. She refused to panic even when the momentum shifted violently against her on the court. It took maturity to reset after a brutal second set loss. She looked at her box, saw the sea of Filipino flags, and found the fire to push past total exhaustion. Frech is a stone-cold competitor who just made the fourth round of the Australian Open and loves taking down top 10 tennis stars. Beating her from behind in the final set proves Alex Eala has the tennis IQ and unbreakable spirit of a true champion. Looking ahead at the Italian Open draw, the road only gets tougher from here on out. With this win, Eala is climbing the rankings fast. She is currently sitting at number 38 in the live standings. Her prize for surviving that battle? A second-round showdown with the 31st seed in Rome. Formidable Chinese star Wang Xinyu awaits. She is a heavy hitter who wants to dictate every point and keep Eala pinned behind the baseline. If Alex can beat that challenge, a third-round nightmare looms. World number 2, the ice-cold Elena Rybakina. This is life at the top of the WTA Tour. There are no easy days. Every match is a physical and mental war, but this is exactly where Alexandra Eala belongs. She is no longer just a hyped junior player with a famous academy behind her name. She is a seasoned pro, a certified giant killer, and a player who earns respect across the entire locker room. Watching her tactical adjustments against Wang Xinyu is going to be a masterclass in modern tennis. Eala needs to land her first serves consistently, because her second serve is one of the few targets left for opponents. She must use those left-handed angles to pull Wang off the court, keeping the Chinese star from unloading her massive ground strokes. Eala will need the drop shot, using the heavy, slow nature of the Roman clay to disrupt Wang's rhythm. The whole tennis world is watching, scrutinizing every single forehand, every tactical shift, and every emotional reaction. Experts are dissecting her swing while journalists track her every move on and off court. Millions of fans are waking up at 3 in the morning just to see her play. She is juggling sponsorships and a massive media circus. She is even picking up awards for building ties between the Philippines and Spain at the Tenla Trophy. Through all that noise, she still finds the focus to step on the clay and win matches. It is a massive balancing act for a young woman who isn't even 21 years old yet. As we cover this historic moment in sports, we have to stop and appreciate the gravity of what we are watching. This is special. We aren't just watching an athlete win matches. We are witnessing the birth of a global sports icon in real time. Alexandra Eala is literally redefining what it means to be a tennis superstar in this era. That viral comeback in Italy and that sensational passing shot aren't just one-off moments. They are the prologue to a much bigger story. It is the image of a young woman looking the pressure of an entire nation in the eye and choosing to conquer it. The path ahead of her is incredibly steep. Moving from the top 30 to the top 10 as a true Grand Slam contender is the hardest jump to make in this sport. It takes physical durability and a mental toughness that only a tiny fraction of pro athletes ever really find. She will face tough losses. She will deal with slumps. She will have to keep evolving as the rest of the tour studies her tape to find any tiny weakness. But if her performance in Rome taught us anything, it's that Eala possesses the most important unteachable quality. She absolutely refuses to ever give up. When you watch her, you aren't just seeing a backhand or a clay court strategy. You're seeing something much deeper. You are seeing the result of thousands of hours of sacrifice on those quiet practice courts in Mallorca. You are watching the hopes of millions of Filipinos moving with every swing of her racket. You are seeing the undeniable power of a young woman who decided she belongs at the top of the world. The tournament goes on. Champions will rise and the tour will march toward the French Open at Roland Garros in just a few weeks. But long after the clay of Rome settles, the echoes of fans cheering for that kid from Quezon City will remain. This next-gen superstar isn't next anymore. She is here. She is the main event. And her viral story is just getting started. With breathtaking comebacks and massive global support, the rise of Alex Eala is something special. Thanks for joining our close look. We will be watching every single point, and we know you will be, too.